Hello again, everybody. It's that time of the week, the Thursday night football pregame show. Hopefully, your preferred one. I'm Ted. He's Ron. We are the Inside Blitz week number 10. Ron, here we go again. And let's just say there's some teams at the top that we still shaking our heads like, how did they get there? But they're starting to show that they belong.
Yep, Ted. So we're at the halfway point of the NFL season, and we're starting to see which teams are at the bottom and going to stay there. And we're starting to see some of the usual suspects rise to the top.
Yep.
We can talk about how there are a number of people who do what I do in terms of power ratings that are sneakily putting in a couple of teams we haven't talked about in a while, but now they belong there. We're starting to see the cream rise back to the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just the fact that interesting schedule this week. There's some really good games. I'm not so sure tonight's one of them. You got the Raiders at Denver. That should be a potential blowout with things just in total chaos with the Raiders right now. You want to go? Let's go over that game a little bit and your thoughts on what you see with the Raiders and with Denver because their defense is for real.
Yeah, I mean, Denver's stat sheet is outplaying Denver's actual results. It seems like they're scratching and clawing to win these games close. When
Yep.
if you look at the numbers, you'd say, wow, 40-9 sack ratio, one of the two best pass defenses in the league, a top 8 rush defense, an efficient quarterback, good run pass balance and stuff like that. Why are they scratching and clawing and winning games? Like last week, they were not the better team. But when
Right.
CJ Stroud went out, good fortune for them this year. And that's what's happening to them. When they put it all together, if they put it all together, it's going to be something. And the Raiders, they should have won that game. I know in overtime they had to come back and cover. I appreciated that, but it should never have gotten to overtime. You needed a 68-yard kick. You needed a 48-yard kick with 20 seconds to go. You needed a missed extra point from Vegas. You needed a lot of things for Vegas. Learning how to win is not going to happen easily this year, and that division is too hard for them. With all that said, we got a spread that's under 10 that maybe it goes to 10 later today. I haven't checked. I could check as we speak. But it kind of tips off that the rivalry is such that Denver hardly ever covers by margin. No, it's not going to get to 10 right now. Denver's hardly ever covers by margin in this series. So on paper, it looks like the Raiders can't compete. But in reality, we're probably looking at something a little ugly for one of these midweek Thursday games. And maybe Denver finds a way to win.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about both teams from a coaching standpoint. From the Raiders side, look, anytime you have Pete Carroll coming in at this stage of his career, you wonder, is there a commitment, that kind of a thing? Well, he's the kind of guy where his job has always been about commitment. So I'm not concerned about that. You got people talking, who cares what they say? But obviously the team is not performing. And then the Chip Kelly factor has been absolutely, I mean, they could have saved a lot of money and brought us in for a lot cheaper because it wouldn't have made any difference.
Yeah, with Chip Kelly, even in college, even when he was at Ohio State, it took a year for his system to take hold.
Right.
When he was a coach at UCLA, it took 2.5 years for it to take hold. And at the very peak, at the end, when he got burnt out from head coaching because of all the nil and all the other stuff, he just wanted to coach.
Yeah.
And he was doing that very well once he got his system in place. But college and the NFL, this is the second time or third time around for him. He's finding life is different. I just don't think his system fits in the NFL. And it would take a large number of years for him to get that going. I don't know if he hangs around for more than another year. I completely agree with you on Pete Carroll. He's there for the long run. Their GM's from Tampa Bay. He had a decent and more comprehensive draft than the Raiders are used to. They've added more picks because they knew they were going to lose Jacoby Myers anyway. So they're building this brick by brick. The one downfall for Pete Carroll and everybody associated with the Raiders is they're in a brutal division. And it's just
Right.
never going to get easy with Harbaugh and with Peyton and with Andy Reid and Mahomes there. If they were in a different division, they could go last to first in 2026, but it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not. And they have pieces, but they don't have enough pieces. And I don't care if you bring back any of the greatest coaches who ever lived. Mr. Lombardi would say, you know what, I can't win with that roster. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. And I think they'll get it done generally okay in the draft, but it's still a lot of work to do because of the 6 games they will play against their own division.
Yep. And so some of the notable trades, and you did mention the Vegas trading away their receiver. At the same time, some other guys happening here. When you think about what the Jets have done, I'm just want to look at the future for them, because they have 8 draft picks next year in the early stages, right? And look at this. What do you do with that if you have the right general manager? What do you do with that?
Yeah, I'm close to signing the contract to be their general manager.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah,
$3 an hour or what?
Yeah. I mean, let me tell you, I think I have a proven enough track record that I could outdraft at least 20 of these GMs, and the Jets are right there. The Jets, I mentioned this on a different show, the Jets once had 4 first-round draft picks, and the 4th of the 4 was Chad Pennington that year. And he was a competent enough Rhodes Scholar type quarterback that he brought them to some very quality winning seasons.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that? You've drafted your tight end already in Mason Taylor. You've drafted a couple of offensive tackles that you need to keep on the field. You can use a 3rd round pick for an absolute quality offensive lineman. You need to get one of the top 2 quarterbacks, obviously, in the draft. And they're going to have one of the top 3 picks, most likely, in this upcoming draft. I don't see Fields or Tyrod Taylor being on the team next year. Maybe Tyrod in a mentorship role if he wants to do that. Breece Hall wasn't traded, which surprised me. They wanted a 3rd round pick, and they were only offered a 4th round pick, and it was from Kansas City. It leaked out, and that pick is practically, at the end of the draft anyway. Yeah. So, it wasn't a good deal for the Jets to trade him. I'm disappointed they traded Sauce Gardner because he's a shutdown corner, and I don't. Quinnen Williams, they have Jermaine Johnson, they have other pieces, but now they're going to have to get a shutdown corner. They're going to have to get another piece on the defensive line. They have to completely restock wide receivers 2, 3, and whatever. Need another offensive lineman. Linebackers, lesser need, but it's still there. They have to hit on these draft. The thing of it is, they got a king's ransom in terms of these 2 trades. Sacrificing this year means nothing if they don't draft well.
Exactly. That's what I said to open this thing. And at the same time, there's always the question of, you got 2 guys who became all pros that are original Jets. Now you're trading them away for who knows who that you hope will even be able to sniff a Pro Bowl someday. You have no idea what's going to happen. So that's the question that I have. It's like, okay, so why are you breaking up the team to do that?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different philosophies, and the Rams did an about face, remember, when they started drafting 10, 12, whatever, and realizing that if you get these guys on rookie contracts and they hit, you've got them for 4 or 5 years, and you could really build a roster. Then you can afford your quarterback. You can afford to spend, if you're Denver, $87 million to not have Russell Wilson on your team because you have some rookie contracts going on. So the GM is so important in this. And when there's a disconnect, like in Miami between GM and head coach, when there's been a disconnect in other places, and you can name the Jets, you could probably name the New Orleans Saints because you have Rashad Shaheed on the list. Kellen Moore has no toys to play with because the GM has not drafted enough people. You have to philosophically decide when you're going to rebuild and when you're going to go for it. And we see different strategies from different teams, depending on what divisions, where they are, and so on. And some of them are very thoughtful and some of them are not.
So how good is Indy right now with those deals?
Well, so with Indy, and this is a topic that I broached with Chris and I broached with Jared on 2 shows last week. You have to immediately change some power numbers. I
Right.
mean, you really, Sauce Gardner is one of the 10 best cornerbacks, and 10 is kind of a high number. He could be one of the top 5 cornerbacks. I mean, he's mirrored on a Jet team where he was, one of the only great pieces on that team. And then Quentin Williams developed, and now he's gone too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you move them up at least a half a point. What Indy did with that move, Ted, is solidified the division, first of all. They're going to win the division. And number two, they are now in the running for, to me, they were not in the running for a number 1 seed before this move because their team talent just wasn't as good as Buffalo or Kansas City or a couple of the others. But now you got Buffalo in a dogfight with New England. You got Kansas City and Denver and the Chargers. They're all really good teams. You have Indy with a legit shot of being no worse than a number 2 seed.
Right. Okay. At the same time, by the way, this means that Sauce Gardner, because the game is in Berlin coming up on Sunday, he gets to go to Europe twice this year.
Yeah, what's weird about that is because I don't know if it was the perfect move. I don't know how efficient he'll be learning a game plan on an airplane rather than
timing, weird
whatever.
timing.
So, in a perfect world, or not perfect for them, maybe because they certainly think that he'll be better. Having him means that they have a better chance of winning. But in a perfect world, he would be at home. They don't play after this week. So he would have 2.5 weeks before he had to step off the field. Remember, he just got cleared yesterday off concussion protocol.
Right. And I was going to ask you about that because the Jets made a deal when they had a contract with him. They made it tradable. Okay. So I'm wondering how much of that has to do with multiple concussions and that they're concerned about that and something. I mean, it's football, so anything can happen on any play, but it's something you have to think about with him because now he has a history.
Yeah, no, I don't think they made that deal with that in mind, but GMs could learn from this where now in this era, which happens more to quarterbacks than anything else, but here we saw it with the defensive back. If you're going to eat a lot of money, how can you position that big contract where you give them upfront money and you have less money on your books if that person doesn't work out, if he gets hurt and whatever? I think this is the business end of the football deal that needs to be examined more because it's smart business.
Right. So we'll talk about the Berlin game in a minute. We've got the Rams are on the road this week at San Francisco. I had a chance to talk to a few of the guys after last week's win. You got Coach McVay, who both he and Matthew Stafford, I got them talking about the Dodgers World Series championship and how it affects their room and what they want to do from a standpoint of being a champion themselves. Also got a chance to talk to Puka Nacua right here and Emmanuel Forbes, who's a defensive back who do you remember where you had him in your draft a couple of years ago? Because
was he a number 1 pick out of Washington? He came to Washington, I think, like that. I thought
he was a second round pick, I believe.
Okay, I think they traded up for him, so I'd have to look it up.
Okay,
I liked him. I thought he was going to be a little bit raw at first.
Okay,
because I thought there wasn't a lot of college experience there. In his position, learning on the job can be painful, and you have to go through the mental aspect of the college game is different than the NFL. But I did like him. It was a surprise pick to me at the time because there were 1 or 2 better cornerbacks on the market or better DBs on the market, but there was upside, and I didn't. I thought he was relatively properly drafted, but possibly there were 1 or 2 players better at the time.
Okay, well, we spoke to him because he got his first NFL interception in last week's win. So I'll get to that in just a moment. One more thing about the Rams before we get to the interviews. Our buddy Josh Carty, he has missed 8 field goals in 8 games. Not all his fault. The right side of the line. I feel like I'm studying this damn thing more than I want to because it's Josh and he's a great guy. he's had like how many blocked. That's not his fault. Although they can say, well, he needs to kick it higher. Well, that's easier said than done. A guy shouldn't be in there touching the ball that close like half the time. And they were there in on him again last week. So now they brought in this Harrison Mavis, who was out of the UFL, I guess. He was a good kicker in the low minors, we could call it. But so now there's competition. They haven't gotten rid of Josh, but the pressure's on, huh?
Yeah, Harrison Mavis, he has a huge leg. He's very outspoken, and he missed some kicks from 25, 30, 35.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah,
just what they need.
I remember him in college. I'm going to float, this is something I've not said out loud before, but I've thought about it. So here we are, your preferred Thursday show. You're going to hear it first here. Yes. The extra points, they got moved back or whatever, but nothing has changed as far as from the snap to the holder, 7 yards, 7 yards, 7 yards, 7 yards.
Right.
I think a team would be smart if they're worried about block kicks and all this stuff. Why not set up 8 yards? Why not give them one little extra yard? I personally think that should be explored in the NFL. Just a thought.
No, it's not a bad idea, and I wish I'd thought of it. I'm not bright enough. I would have brought it up at the news conference after the game the other day. But that it's interesting, and that's a great thing to ask Josh as well. Although I'm not so sure he wants to answer that, because then he'll be saying, "Well, those guys like to take the blame if they have to, and not say, well, how's that going to help me? I need to kick better." You know how they are when they say this.
Yeah, it's more of a coach question, even a special teams coach question, which are,
right.
You see at practice more than you're going to have interviews of them after the game or whatever. But right. I just think in general, it's something NFL teams should consider. Kickers kick from 50 yards like it's nothing. What's the difference between a 33-yard extra point and a 34-yard extra point if you can have one more yard of distance between the defenders rushing in and your team blocking them?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so Dodgers won a crazy World Series in 7 games. The Rams congratulating them publicly all over the place, and that's typical in the same city kind of a thing. After the game, this was Sunday, so the Dodgers won it on Saturday night, and I got a chance to ask both Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford about what that meant to the city and to this team.
Besides the Dodgers winning it was so great the way they did it. Yeah. How about the LA pride factor from a sports standpoint overall and what it does to the city, and how you guys want to be on top of that as well?
Yeah, you just mentioned it. I mean, when you're inspired when you watch the way that they competed, the way that they overcame some adversity. I mean, you look at the run that they had where they don't lose it, they don't drop a game, getting into the World Series. You go down 3-2. You see some videos too. I think just the culture that they have. When you listen to the way that those players talk about one another, the way that Dave Roberts has really found guys that they play for each other. They stay connected. They stay in the moment, and they inspire me, and I know they inspire our group. And so, hopefully we can continue to represent the city the way the Dodgers did. Really happy for those guys.
Thanks, man.
So there's head coach Sean McVay. Now, I saw Stafford as he walked out of the room. We walked basically out together after I asked him the question, and he basically says, "It's Super Bowl or nothing for us, boys." So that's what it's about as far as Stafford's concerned.
A really nice discussion about it, Dodgers winning it and the way they won it, and the LA pride factor. Certainly it's a personal thing for you too because of your closeness with Clayton, but just overall feeling on all that.
So happy for him, so proud of him. It's awesome. What a team. A ton of pressure on him coming into the beginning of the season, and man, that's not an easy thing to play with, the entire season, and I thought they did a hell of a job. I mean, Yamamoto was unbelievable in the series, and really their whole team had clutch performances from a bunch of different guys, and that's what it takes to win. Yep. And it was really cool. We were in the middle room kind of last night, everybody watching, and when RonAce hit the dinger, man, we were all going crazy. So we were pulling for him big time. It was fun to watch, and that was the shortest team meeting before a game. We ran up in the top of the 10th, ran back down to the bottom of the 10th to see it all go down. It was a lot of fun.
Beautiful.
There you go. So there's Matthew Stafford, and remember he's Clayton Kershaw's battery mate in high school, so they go way back together in Texas. Any thoughts on that, Ron, knowing LA as you do, and how that could carry over to another team from a standpoint is like, okay, now we're potentially good enough. They got the parade. We want to be next.
Well, it's nice to be in a city where there's champions. So it kind of runs into an osmosis factor. You feel it. You feel the adrenaline.
Like it's in the air, right?
The media. I mean, everything is just a little bit more upbeat in terms of that. Now, if the Yankees had won the championship and you're in the Jets locker room and they have one win, it's a different story. You're not, saying, oh, we have to cover the Jets or the Giants or whatever. But when you have a competitive team, like this, there is a little bit of factor that your juices get flowing. You want to come to work. You still have to do it on the field. And once the whistle sounds, all that's kind of forgotten. But there's, maybe practices are crisper. There's just a good feel in the air.
Yeah. Good feel in the air for Puka Nacua, who's, I guess, expected to play now this week after just bruising his ribs at least in the last game. It's funny how McVay said, hey, it's my fault. I put him in a bad situation. I gave him a route that he shouldn't have gotten, and he got crushed on that particular play. But we got a couple of seconds with Puka after the game. Actually, I thought he was leaving the room, and he came back and he gave us a little bit. Said he was feeling okay under the circumstances, and that was Sunday, so we fully expect him to play.
I think it's exciting. I mean, I feel like
Devontae Adams
draw so much attention, and the opportunity for him to go out there and do what I think he does best. The touchdown records for whoever's are close by, just know that he's coming every week. A 2 minimum, I think, is where we're at. It's kind of where we're feeling. But it makes it so fun when the offense is scoring touchdowns. We feel great about however we get in that zone.
Talk about the 3-game winning streak and what it means to you guys, and the growth during this time.
I think Coach had mentioned it, just something of continuing to play complementary football. The opportunities that we have to execute, I think first was getting upset that they only had 3 plays in the third quarter. And as an offensive guy, that means that we were able to convert on third downs, to continue to execute our game plan, and then also feel like we were walking down a defender to get in the end zone.
How about the importance of having Puka in there on a weekly basis? I mean, he's now one of the top receivers in the league, Ron. And the problem with him, they keep saying he's getting hurt. Maybe. Oh, hold on a second, Aaron.
Defense did a great job keeping their defense on the field.
This came on by accident.
So,
this is Emmanuel Forbes.
A big positive when you're not on the field as much, and we're also scoring points and holding them from scoring points. So, yeah.
You talked about how much you've worked on your tackling over the past year. So when you have plays like that one open field one against Taysom Hill, I guess what does that do for your confidence or validating kind of the work that you put in there?
Honestly, just doing my job, and the other 10 guys on the field expecting me to make that tackle, so I got to do it. So yes, doing my job.
How do you read the growth here with the 3-game winning streak?
Say it again.
The growth of the team overall with this winning streak.
It's just a confidence booster, especially for the defense, keeping a lot of teams at the end zone. So that's, like I said, it's a confidence boost.
All right, thanks, man.
There you go. That's Emmanuel Forbes Jr. Yeah, I'm still learning how to do this video stuff, Ron. I'm a radio guy. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But it's coming. It's decent. It's not bad, right, for a rookie?
Oh, yeah. You got it.
I'm a 4th-round pick. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so your thoughts on the Puka thing, because, the importance that people are saying, he might be injury-plagued kind of a guy. He plays so hard, literally on every damn play. He's trying to run through guys. He's got a little bit of that McCaffrey thing about him.
That was the write-up I had when we came out of the draft. You would ask me, well, here he is, the 5th-round pick. He's a very physical guy there. He's a self-made guy. He works hard for all the yards that he gets. He played at a school where you're not going to have 4.3 burners that are coming out of college, and that's the way he knows how to play.
Right. Yeah. So, but the combination of him and Devontae Adams, who broke another record this past week, really important. The way these guys have become just total chemistry now with Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, I love these teams that have a number one and a number 1A kind of receiver, because we know Devontae Adams has been a number one everywhere he's been. And now
Right.
the two of them, you got the Chase and the Higgins, you got CeeDee Lamb, and you got DK Metcalf and stuff. It really helps your offense where you can't key on any one guy. And Adams knows how to get in the end zone.
One last thing with Emmanuel Forbes, who's getting more airtime today than he might have gotten in the last 3 seasons. Look at that! Look at what he's wearing there. There's a thing there on his just below his shoulder. It's a picture of a woman, and I said, "What is that jacket all about?" I walked up to him afterwards. I said, "That is really wild." He goes, "I love it," and he says, "But I have no idea who's on this damn jacket." So I thought that was anyway.
That's funny. One thing he said about the defense, all 10, the 10 guys that come with them, and they
Right.
expect me to make the tackle and whatever. The overall consistency of the Rams defense, where it's complementary, not just in the past, we saw an average secondary, but a really good offensive line, or a great sacking team, and they couldn't stop the run. They were hitting on one or two of the 3 parts of what I consider the defensive metrics.
Yep.
They're hitting on all 3 right now.
Yep. And here's Devontae leading the league in touchdown catches. A great pickup. He said in training camp, I remember he told me, he said, this is, really good timing to come to a team like this at this stage of his career. And it's an offense he's very familiar with. And they're just, it's like he's been there for a few years, right?
Yeah, it's a fun race because any one of the 3 or even 4 teams, if Arizona would close out games, are primed to win divisions. San Francisco, maybe you give them kind of a little rope because they've had the 4th place schedule. That's really helped them. But
Yep.
Seattle and the Rams, they're playing like the top teams certainly in the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get to the Berlin game again. So Indianapolis is it Indian? Oh, what do I have that there? I'm sorry, I've got them all mixed up because I can't read it. It's I'll have it here in a second. Here we go. So Indy is a 6.5 point favorite. Is it still holding it about there?
We'll have to check because it started around 5.5, and now we are looking at 6.5. Obviously, same bump that I gave, an extra half point for Sauce Gardner and that momentum and stuff like that. And like I said earlier to you, Ted, I don't know if you see the benefit of Sauce Gardner 5 days after signing and going across water for his next game. I think you'll start seeing the benefit of Sauce Gardner down the road, which will be especially effective when they start playing all these divisional games. So it is a reaction to the trades. We always see that kind of reaction. And it's also a reaction that, Atlanta just kind of sat still, and Atlanta is finding ways to lose games. They're 0-3. You'd expect Indy. I brought this up with Cris yesterday, and it was kind of not drawn in fact. So I hesitated because I like to handicap games more on fact than not. But I just felt the maturity of the Indianapolis head coaching staff, the players are a little bit older, and so on and so forth. Daniel Jones versus a second-year guy, Michael Penix, that they might handle this road trip across, to another country a little bit better. The new surroundings that you don't know anything about than Atlanta. How do you, I can't really factor that in my handicapping, but I feel it's there that Indy will find a way to win this game.
Yeah, as good as the Colts have been playing, I almost want to throw out last week's loss to Pittsburgh. You end up losing by a touchdown. They had 6 turnovers in that game. You're not going to beat the Sisters of Mercy with that, and it doesn't. And they had 4 turnovers total the whole season going into that game. That's insane when you think about it, right?
Well, it wasn't that 3-star play for a bad reason. I mean, Pittsburgh was in a tremendous. We talked about it. I know I had differences with a lot of model handicappers, shall we say, but Pittsburgh was in the sweet spot. It was, again, the story is, don't just rely on what happened last week for both teams. Pittsburgh didn't play a good game the week before, but they played a great game this game. Indianapolis has probably outplayed their defensive stats most of the year. And instead of just sitting and saying, okay, we're going to regress back to the mean where we belong. No, we're going to improve our defensive stats because they go out and get a Sauce Gardner. But that result last week was certainly not unexpected by me.
And look who's going to join us right now, straight from Berlin, Germany. Here he is. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm in Berlin. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we hear you great. You sound like you're doing a remote. That's all. No biggie.
Yeah.
Yes, apologies. I had a once a year mandatory attendance event to attend,
No problem.
They kind of overlap. So I caught you as soon as I got back in the car here.
Well, we appreciate that very much. And, let's just wrap up the talk about the game in Germany with Indianapolis. Are you feeling the same as me as far as they had 6 turnovers in their loss to Pittsburgh last week? You just throw that out. If they just play reasonably clean, they should win handily in this game over Atlanta.
Well, I certainly hope they do. I think that they'll be better prepared. I like the coaching better on Indianapolis. I think if anybody's going to be distracted, it would be more of along the lines of the younger Atlanta players. And I think that their coaching lacks a little discipline and organization. So I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be a for sure factor. But if one of the two teams suffer from the travel, I think it would be Atlanta.
Okay, so what are you anywhere near the Strip right now where you're driving in Vegas?
Yeah, I'm in front of the Fontainebleau. I just had somebody horn me because he didn't like my lane change.
No, it's because he can't because he's pissed off. He can't get this show right now while he's driving. That's why he horned you. Anyway,
maybe he disagrees.
Yeah, good luck. He's probably a Falcons fan. Screw him if he can't take a joke.
Before you go on, because I made this point about kickers, I want to get Chris's opinion now that he's here.
Yep.
Earlier in the show, Chris, Ted talked about how the Rams are starting to miss some kicks, and we're seeing a lot of block kicks in the NFL. And you and I, Chris, we've talked about why that could be with faster players, with more inside pressure and whatever. And so I threw out something that I haven't thrown out before, and that's why not, for the operation for the kick, why not, instead of moving 7 yards back, move it 8 yards back? Just try your extra points instead of from the 33 at the 34-yard line, 1 yard less for the, it's 1 yard more for the defense to have to come in and block the kick. Anything you want to say about that particular thought, that why not make it 8 yards between the snapper and the holder?
I've wondered that for years. The other trick that they're doing now is that it's like poker, where they're coming up with tells with the person hiking the ball or the person ready to receive the ball or the kicker himself on what they're doing and what's giving it away when the ball is going to be hiked or not. So that's been giving some teams a huge advantage. So I guess some of these long snappers will slightly move their fingers or tilt the ball. I don't want to say for sure specifically what it is, but it could be a certain. There's just a lot of things between the three that are giving off the information. So. But I've wondered that for years. When you used to, why don't they just move it back a yard? What's the big deal? But apparently there has to be some reason. We should ask AI and see what they say.
Maybe we should ask Birdie. Did you see what he said? You probably can't read this, right, Chris? I don't want you to read anything. You're driving. Birdie wrote in, does Chris have the mental capacity to be talking and driving at the same time? With an LOL.
Not really. Not really.
Well, okay. Well, at least you admit it. Look out, Vegas. Here he comes.
Yeah.
Anyway, your thoughts on the Giants in Chicago coming up here with the Bears supposedly improving a little bit every week, but are they on the same page with Caleb? I know that's like the same thing, same story each Sunday, it seems like.
Well, Ron and I discussed it yesterday, and it's amazing how, we can really change, opinions. And, there's signs of life that Caleb and Ben Johnson can get along. But, the more boring and the fewer highlights we see of Caleb, then the better quarterback he is.
Yeah.
So if he can just be functionally literate out there, then I think that they'll see a lot more success. And then he's able to put in more trick plays. If he can trust the offense, now all of a sudden the offense increases in difficulty, and it makes it harder on the defenses. But their defense is garbage. So the Giants should be able to do something with that.
Yeah, can you trust with your money the Bears offense laying 4.5, or is that what it is now? Solid 4.5?
Yeah, last I saw it was 4.5.
Okay.
And you could even get a 5 here or there if you're creative enough in terms of looking at the alternate lines. You're laying 112 or something like that.
Right.
So it's been trending up because the Chicago's learning how to win. Maybe the Giants are. There's more trust in Ben Johnson, whether we trust him or not. And I agree with Chris, the defense isn't perfect. I expect Caleb to have a smaller load on his play. I expect Chicago to be a little bit more run-oriented against the New York Giants in this game. But I also expect Jackson Dart to have some success as well.
All right. Do you guys have anything on this game?
I have the Giants.
Or you took 4.5.
I took 5.
Oh, you took 5. Good for you.
It was offered to me, so I took it.
Well, that's a good reason.
I think I'm happy the line moved up, so I don't have to take Chicago.
Only reason I want to mention the Jacksonville-Houston games because of a couple of personnel changes. What are your thoughts? What's going on with Houston and their quarterback situation? Is this a long-term deal that they need to really look closer at now?
For me, no. It's just one of those unfortunate things that he was out of the game, knocked both Houston's playoff hopes, and Houston was a better team last week against Denver. That's indisputable. They were holding a lead. They bring in Davis Mills. Every completion is going to be 7.5, 8 yards. It's not going to stretch the field, certainly not against Denver. So the whole game plan changed. Stroud's their quarterback of the present and the future when he gets healthy. He's not playing this week. I expect him to play within a week or two after that. But unfortunately for Houston, both Jacksonville and Indy elevated their roster this week, and Houston's going to be sitting home for the holidays.
Yeah, but are you putting Stroud in the it's more because he's been injured, or the league has figured him out and he's not been the same strong, solid guy on a weekly basis for a year at least now?
Did the league have unrealistic expectations because he took the league by fire at the beginning of his career?
That's always going to hover there. It's like a cloud.
Yeah. So, he's going to be, it looks like, Houston has a lot of work, first of all. They don't have a viable tight end, which is important for young quarterbacks. Their offensive line is -2 in terms of talent from last year. They traded one of their best guys to Miami. If they don't surround them with the tools to have run-pass balance, it's just a mess with him. I'm still in the camp that C.J. Stroud is a very viable quarterback, but you better get him help.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
go ahead.
The most important issue of that is he's got no offensive line. The defensive line is in the backfield before he can get out of take 2 steps back sometimes. So that's one of the problems. But I want to ask you something, Ron. Have you noticed that the Rams have been going to 3 tight end sets?
Yeah, in fact, they had throws to 4 tight ends during last week's game. It's absolutely incredible what they're trying to do in terms of adjust to their personnel. They don't need a number 3 wide receiver because they have 2 number 1s, and then they can push the pile with the rest of the tight ends, and they get open. Higbee and Parkinson and all the other guys. So it's a philosophical change. It's interesting you mentioned that because not a lot of people are looking at how the Rams are morphing into what they think are their biggest strengths.
Okay, so here's the big question of the week. When you say, go ahead, Chris, if you got something.
No. I just, it's exactly what you said, Ron. It's amazing how they're just utilizing their personnel at a maximum way. And Ron, I've always mentioned, we don't understand why teams don't focus more on tight ends. And they have an abundance of them. And that's why they're doing so well.
Yeah, tight ends matter.
Yeah, more than ever. Absolutely. So with Jacksonville, that does JAC now officially stand for Jacoby? Even though it's not
a good
spelled that way?
addition. It doesn't move the power rating number.
No.
Because a wide receiver 2 type doesn't move a power rating, but it doesn't mean it doesn't make them a little bit better, because he instantly fits with his ability to catch the ball, not very many drops. He can route run. He'll fit in nicely with that team. And believe me, Trevor Lawrence needs all the tools he can get, because his completion percentage is getting worse, not better.
How about the bottom feeder Baltimore Ravens being a 4-point road favorite at Mini, because the Vikings right now just absolutely stink?
I think that's up to 4.5, isn't it?
Is it 4.5, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a question for Chris, because of the way he does his model. When you look at different snapshots of a season, you're most likely, Chris, not going to have Baltimore in your top 5. I would think that would be hard to do. But I've heard a couple of people on air now have Baltimore as in their top 5. And I have put Baltimore as tied for 5th as well. Okay. This is where they are right now with their current roster and their metrics. If you look at the whole season, Baltimore doesn't deserve to sniff the top 5. If you look at where they are right now, I think there needs to be a power rating adjustment. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my question to you is, where do you have this point spread line then?
Yeah, so the point spread line, because I still have Minnesota circled because I'm concerned about J.J. McCarthy. From a point spread standpoint, I can't get to even 4. I would make it 3.5, and that would be circled. So that's a great question, because it's a dilemma for me. I have Baltimore's power rating elevated, and yet the line is a little too high, which points me obviously in Minnesota's direction.
The reason I ask is because Baltimore right now, but my model comes up with a line of 3.5 something. So it comes up with the right line, but they aren't a top 10 team yet.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement in terms of that, is that even with me elevating them, the line is now too high.
All right, so do you guys, are you in on that game?
Yep.
I'm not.
You're not? Okay, I thought you might be. It just sort of felt like a Chris play to me.
No, because Baltimore and Chris, Baltimore still has issues with Chris, and I have issues with Harbaugh.
No, it's Harbaugh. It's not Baltimore. Chris has issues with John Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Chris would not be on on the game in terms of where it is. I pretty much have to kind of either lean or play Minnesota, because I've elevated Baltimore, and yet I still have Minnesota value, and I just don't trust Baltimore's defense.
If I look at last week, Miami was able to get into the red zone. They had 3 turnovers. They got in the red zone 3 times on top of it.
Right.
What makes us believe that Baltimore's defense is going to be, what it needs to be? I haven't seen anything to indicate that yet. I
totally agree with you. They're a little bit healthier, right? But outside of that, they need to show it. I'm tired of just hearing about it.
Bertie wants to know, can you ask Chris what his rolling 3-week line is on the Baltimore game?
I don't know.
All right.
There's your true answer. But yeah, I mean, I circled Minnesota's line because we've seen so little of J.J. McCarthy. He only threw 25 passes last week, 14 of 25. They didn't ask him to do a lot in that particular game. So in my mind, I don't have a concrete power number for Minnesota.
But he should be the easiest guy to measure because in his 2 wins, they won by the identical score. He threw for identical yards, identical touchdowns. What else do you want on a consistency basis?
Yeah, I'll take the low sample size then, and we'll go 3 for 3.
If this was last year, I'd be looking at another matchup for about less than 1 second. But right now, I am totally into New England at Tampa Bay. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I am really curious how this game is going to come out.
Go
for
Chris.
it, Ron.
Oh, I was going to defer to Chris.
Okay.
By coincidence, I wanted to look up the teaser history in this exact scenario. And over the last 5 years, the 10-point teaser for New England in this situation is over 90%. So I'll definitely have a 10-point teasers involved on the New England side.
Okay.
I'm interested because, the feeling is New England doesn't have much of a defense by some people, but they're number 2 in my chart. But then again, they haven't played a whole lot of anybody.
Right.
And
exactly.
Tampa Bay is somebody. But you know what was kind of remarkable? I'm curious where you have Tampa Bay offensively, Ron, because when I looked at Tampa Bay on the offensive side of the ball, they're not in the top half of the league. You kind of think that they've got, some firepower behind them, but they really don't. And then with Urban and Godwin out again, probably, they don't really have the firepower that we think they do.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're definitely not in my top 10. In fact, they've needed Baker Mayfield comebacks to win some of their games. So in terms of the meat of a particular game, the first 45 minutes, they're probably not in the top 15 if you want to parse it out that way. I think they missed Bucky Irving. Yards per carry is so far down this year, and Bucky Irving was a revelation as a rookie last year. So without that run pass balance, Tampa has settled kind of middle of the package right now offensively.
Do we have any idea what the real issue with Irving is? Because there's no way they wouldn't have put him on the IR, but he's been out way too long, and there's something goofy going on. Do we have any news on what it could possibly be?
Now, I haven't investigated, but it's a very good question because we need to know that, because when he is back in the lineup, we need to know whether or not he's full go or he's just back because he's 80%.
It's been 4 or 5 weeks. It's been 4 or 5 weeks where, he may go, and he hasn't gone. So there's something that we need to know.
Yeah, and Chris mentioned at the start, and this is one of the things that fascinates me about this game. New England has played absolutely nobody. They have beaten a lot of bad teams, but they're supposed to be only slightly better than bad, and they're not. So, and their defense looks for real. This is going to be a true test, whoever is out there for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's why I love this game, and I feel like going into this game, I have no edge. So I'm not touching this game, but I'm going to learn a lot from this game, because even though the stat sheets are similar, one was accomplished versus an average or a little bit above average schedule, and New England's was against who knows what, a really, really bad fourth place schedule, probably the lightest schedule in the NFL. So it's going to be real interesting.
It doesn't get any harder.
Yeah, I know. That's why, you can pencil them in for a lot of wins, and why Buffalo has to keep being concerned about what's going on. But, the bottom line is the odds makers set it under 3 for a reason. And I think they think this is going to be a really tight game. And it's going to be, I think it's a fascinating game. Like you started off with, Ted, that you really brought this up. You like this game. I don't think it's a game that I'm going to, know anything special that I want to play the game ahead of schedule.
Got it. Let's go to the afternoon games with Arizona at Seattle. How good are the Seahawks right now? How legit are they? Are they that good? I mean, obviously they beat up on in some prime time situations, and they were good situations for them too, though. What do you think?
They're good. They're good.
I listen I listened to Greg Cosell this morning on the Herd, and he said that he basically indicated that he probably thinks that their pickup of Shaheed is probably the best move of the trade deadline. The fact that this guy has the speed that he has to complement, what's his name, the guy with the initials, it's just really adds a lot of power. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And that you took it right out of my mouth. I said, Ron, I want to know, what are your thoughts on this move, and how was this guy in college? Okay, Shaheed.
I don't remember him offhand in college. I would have to look that particular up. I knew who Jacoby Myers was in terms of where he was. So I'd have to look up Shaheed, but obviously he's a polished receiver. They're very similar in terms of Shaheed's not a number one guy, but he certainly doesn't have to be a number one guy when he's opposite JSN, as they say, Chris. It's another weapon for a team that really changed the way they fired their coordinator of last year. They brought in Kubiak. They wanted to go for a different look offensively, and everything's working. Their offensive line is playing well above expectations this year. They brought in a rookie that I really liked, and I know Birdie really liked him too, because Birdie's so high on this team, on the Seattle team. And they're doing everything right now. They're stopping the run. They have a shutdown guy in Witherspoon when he's healthy in the back end. Everything's kind of going the way they wanted. And as I mentioned, I think to Chris yesterday, Seattle won 10 games last year, but missed the playoffs because of divisional tiebreakers. Right. They're not going to take this for granted.
Your thoughts on the game at all, Chris? Is it still under 7?
Last I saw it was, my number comes right there. So no, I see no edge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ron, you're not interested in the game itself then, huh?
No, I'm interested. The results are going to be very important for both teams. But no, I couldn't lay this with Seattle. As Chris knows very well, Seattle covers a lot on the road. They've won like 11 and 12 straight up on the road.
Right.
But the 12th man has not always been there. And Arizona is not a bad team. They just can't finish.
Right. How about
I think Arizona may be better now. I think Arizona is going to be in great shape without by addition by subtraction with Murray out of the lineup.
Yeah. I understand that. I think the players like that too. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. likes that because he got targets last week. Right.
Well, 6.5 points is the number that we're looking at now. How about Chris's Lions going on the road, playing against a beat up Washington team, old on defense. Now they got your backup quarterback, my old buddy Marcus Mariota's in there again. This is a tough situation for the home team. You know what? If Detroit should go in there and just say, we need to just blitz these guys big time. Chris, your team.
I'm sure that will be the attitude, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. They've got big offensive line. They've got big offensive line issues, so all is not well in Detroit. So that's why this line has gone down. It would have hit 10, maybe higher otherwise. So that is a concern, but they're going to be focused. We know that they're 12-0 against the spread off a loss. I think 11-1 straight up. Right. And Washington should be crying uncle at this point. They've got no hope for anything. They should be shooting for draft picks.
Yeah, and then Jared Goff, his stats this year have been good, very good against below average teams and not so good against the better teams. And a little bit of a concern there. Obviously, some of that is offensive line related, Ron.
Yeah. Well, the way to blitz Goff has always been up the middle, and Minnesota went right up the middle on him. But not all teams blitz off the middle. Washington has had success rushing the quarterback with 22 defensive sacks.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to point out one thing in the game because I talked about this with Chris yesterday. Maybe Chris brought it up to me, but this is a revenge game for Detroit lost in the playoffs to Washington. But I wondered whether or not that would come into play because here we go with, Detroit's off a divisional loss. Are they really thinking about that and whatever? And today I read stuff and I heard stuff from Dan Campbell. They're very focused on getting revenge in this game. I was surprised at how straightforward they were talking about the subject.
Okay. Nice. All right. So Detroit should be heavily favored in the game. We'll see if they just take care of biz. The question is, will they take care of biz in the odds category? How about the Rams at San Francisco? We already know that that Sean McVay is basically owned by the Niners. He's, we get to the point where it's been more of an issue, I think, in LA. What do you guys think of the Rams going on the road and just taking care of biz there? 4.5 still is the spread?
Even 5. I've
Really?
seen some 5 there now. So I want to go first because my questions are for Chris and stuff like that. Model, knowing that it's Mac Jones now, he did fine against the New York Giants. He's actually done kind of reinvigorated his career a little bit.
Right.
Rams at San Francisco. It's a revenge game for the Rams. There are reasons that the Rams need this. They don't want to be that team that goes 0-2 against another team in the division. But what do your power ratings say, or what does your model say? Because I don't have the Rams as a 5-point favorite.
I have them as more than a 5-point favorite.
Okay, so we have a difference there.
Okay, good. Love hearing that. Okay.
I don't like hearing that.
I do, because it makes it more interesting.
Some weeks it works.
I think the word fragile comes to mind with San Francisco, because I think that their one CMC injury from despair, quite frankly. We talked about it. He had 50% of the touches last game. He hasn't had a game with fewer than 33% of the touches in a given game. They're pounding this guy, and that guy is not your typical workhorse. That guy is not the biggest guy in the world. I don't know how they expect him to last through this season.
That's who he is, though. I mean, you know that. It's just give me the ball, and they have to do that. Now, as they get healthier, it'll be maybe a little bit less. But remember, I had Juszczyk on here, the fullback, some weeks back when they beat the Rams in L.A., and we talked about how just give the ball to CMC, because that's who he is, and he wants the ball.
Yeah. Quietly, maybe not so quietly, Matthew Stafford is becoming one of the MVP candidates this year. I mean, You've got a couple of them, as Chris mentioned yesterday. Whoever wins the division, maybe their quarterback is going to be the MVP. The big issue for me is, can San Francisco get to Matthew Stafford? And right now, San Francisco is sitting on 11 sacks in 8 or 9 games this season, which is an underperforming number for a team that tried to solidify its defensive line in the offseason. And yeah, that's a big concern with me. And maybe as I was musing about why is this over-under spread 49.5 or 50 when I set up much lower, maybe part of it is because Stafford's going to have a clean pocket and San Francisco is going to have to put up points to match the Rams. So I have a lot of conflict in this game, but my power ratings still are different than what Chris has.
Yeah. And when you lose a Bosa, that's going to be a major effect to that pass rush.
Yeah. I mean, there's supposed to be strength in numbers, and San Francisco has always built from the inside on out. So losing Bosa is not an excuse for me when they have 6 or 7 or other guys there.
No, I get it.
Not a game I've played so far, but I'm so close to playing on that side, even with conflict.
And the Rams have not won in division as good as they are. So this is a huge game in that respect, no doubt.
Yeah, it'll have their attention.
Oh, yeah, big time. Also to have my attention is the Sunday night game. Pittsburgh's in town against the Chargers. And you remember these guys, don't you? Oh, wait a minute. That was several years ago. Remember that guy who used to play for the Chargers, number 17?
A long time ago. Yeah, he's busy with his family.
Okay, let's go to the current Chargers. I just thought I'd drop that in to see if you're paying attention. Justin Herbert, my old buddy Aaron Rodgers is in town. I can't wait to run into him when the game is over. That's a story we'll talk about next week. But your thoughts on this game? The Chargers, are they a solid 3?
No, they're 2.5, 3.
2.5, 3. Okay. So you got options there on that. Your thoughts on this game, because again, Joe Alt is now out for the year. And, we kept thinking, is he going to be back in a few weeks? Now he's not coming back. So this is a refurbished line, and that's not good news for the guy who's getting sacked in this picture, Justin Herbert.
Well,
yeah.
I just don't think Pittsburgh is as good as people think. And even in this difficult situation for the Chargers and their O-line, I think they should be able to handle Pittsburgh.
Even with a bad O-line. Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you think, Ron, at 2.5 or 3 in this game?
I have no opinion on the spread in this particular game, which is a neutral site game, considering we'll see a lot of Pittsburgh fans at this particular game.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. Both teams have the ability to rush the passer, so that's going to be interesting. Both teams, I guess if you factor in Herbert and how much he's been running the ball, you get the edge to the Chargers in running the ball, just because Herbert has been so electric when he takes off and runs.
Right.
Talking about tight ends, Pittsburgh has about 4 of them that they use. One of them, Washington, is a punishing blocker. And when they throw him the ball, he's tough to get down. And then they have Freiermuth, and they have a couple of others. But meanwhile, you have Gadsden on the Chargers, who catches 5 catches every game. So You've got a lot of great. I mean, I see this as I don't know if I see it as a coin flip game, because I agree that in some respects, Pittsburgh is just an average team. And the Chargers, even with their cluster injuries, are really a better overall team. The Aaron Rodgers dynamic is really kind of weird for me. So I'm staying away, and I expect a good game.
Yes, I think I texted you. This is a home game for Rodgers. He lives in Malibu, but I don't think he'll be in his bed. But you never know with him. That's for sure. Let's wrap it up with the Monday night game, guys. Philadelphia, Green Bay. Fascinating matchup there. What is going to happen as far as this game is concerned? Because I think the Packers are not playing up to their standards consistently, while the Eagles, they're starting to feel their what they're all about, being the defending champs.
Yeah. So for
it seems like the Eagles just keep adding and adding and adding, and in helpful ways. They address the need. They address the need that they had most on the defensive end. So I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I think there's going to be a sense of real urgency with Green Bay, and they go below 500 if they lose. So
that's crazy.
They're pretty much, aren't they 4-4? Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm mixing them up with Minnesota.
Yeah,
right.
My apologies.
Green Bay's in first place.
Yeah. You stunned me there for a second.
but it's still an important game. It's still a matter of urgency for Green Bay coming off of such a horrible loss.
Yeah. Is this in the line with where you guys have the number at?
No.
Okay,
no, not in line.
Tell us.
Yeah. First of all, even if Philly hadn't added players that, Howie Roseman does it again, the power rating still would not have been correct, even given 2 points of home field for a Monday night game, which I do instead of 1.5. Then they add Jalen Phillips on the defensive line is ready to go. If Jair Alexander is healthy, for this team, he's an asset, because he doesn't have to do as much as he had with other teams. Plus, he used to play in Green Bay.
Of course. So
there's a lot of interesting dynamics in this game. If you wanted to get at Philly, unfortunately, it's too late. They should have been 3-5 or 4-4, and now you're going to see an ascension for Philly. And it's funny, the way Chris talks about it is so correct. We're concerned for good reason about Green Bay, and they're in first place. They're in first place, and we're concerned because they just threw in like 3 duds to go 0-2-1 against teams that they should handle without any problem.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I mean, it's a revenge game for them. It's a standalone game. There's a lot of reasons to like Green Bay, but Philly is the better team.
Yep. I think it's beautifully put right there. Looking at, I think it's 44.5 on the total. I sort of like the O's on that. I see a sort of a shootout.
Yeah. I set it a little bit higher too, but we don't know what we're going to get out of Jordan Love.
I know, but you're going to get some passes.
Yeah.
Don't forget Green Bay didn't even punt last week, and they couldn't win the game. So it's
weird.
A strange team.
I wish I was in post-game that with their coach, but unfortunately it's too far away. I want to cover one more thing real quick before we wrap this thing up. Remember when the Rams beat Indianapolis in LA some weeks back, all because of the one dropped ball as the guy was going into the end zone? Adonai Mitchell was part of the trade that he is out of town. He's no longer with Indy. And I said at the time, we may never see this guy play again. He didn't play a lot over the last several weeks, and he is gone. Ron, what did you have him rated coming out of college? Do you remember?
I thought he had upside, to be honest.
Okay.
He had a good yards per reception. There were a lot of things he could do.
He has talent.
That would help. And
Speed.
the problem I had with him is, and it's the same problem I still have,
really,
is you don't get to pick the team you're drafted to. So he was drafted to a team that was presumably starting Anthony Richardson.
That's true.
And that was not going to be a good match. And now he's going to a team that's being led by either Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields.
Good
and
luck.
That is not a good match.
No, it's all timing. But anyway, I thought I'd give him a little.
Tyrod Taylor's healthy for this week, I thought I saw.
Yeah, but because of Fields' performance, I wonder if they're just going to start Fields again.
All right. Anyway, that's the end of our show. Any other last second thoughts, guys, at all?
One from me. Look for some sacks by Denver today. Don't be afraid to take a couple of Denver's defensive linemen over a quarter or over a half sack. You can get plus money.
Oh, okay. Chris?
Denver fits a trend that's 37-1 with a road team laying 7.5 or more on the road with a total of 50 or greater, I believe.
Okay. And that's why we are the preferred Thursday night football pregame show. Right there. Two perfect answers, baby. And before I leave you all, I want to say rest in peace to this guy, Bob Trumpy.
Dead.
Okay, so we're talking about an original Cincinnati Bengal when they were really bad at the start. Anyway, Bob Trumpy, another tight end there, Ron, from the old days. This guy could play and he could talk too. There's his card there with the Bengals. I was a fan of his as a player, and I think he caught the first touchdown in Bengals history in Cincinnati. And there he is as an announcer with Don Criqui and the old 49ers quarterback. So that's going way back. But Bob Trumpy, a hell of a guy, really good player and a broadcaster, and that doesn't always work that way. Anyway, want to give kudos to him.
Yeah, he was well liked.
Absolutely. We're done, everybody. Great week 10 to you all. And we'll see you next Thursday at noon right here on the Inside Blitz. Until then, win a few games, would you guys, please?